I never knew my father was the man behind it all. Until that moment outside. It was a cold afternoon, the kind where the sky hung heavy and gray, as if the world itself held its breath. I stood on the cracked pavement, heart racing, fear wrapping around me like a vice. Who was that man? Why did everyone turn to watch? Why was my father's name whispered in urgent, frantic tones? I couldn't digest it. I was just a girl, feeling small and lost amid the chaos. My father had always been my anchor, the steady hand in my life. But that day, everything splintered. My world shattered into 1,000 sharp pieces. I wanted to scream. The air was thick with tension, the silence deafening. Just moments before, I had been helping my little brother, Jake, with his homework, his small fingers clumsy against crayons and paper. The muddled colors were a comfort against the bleakness of our reality. Dad's laughter echoed through our tiny apartment, a sound I hadn't appreciated enough. But now, as I stepped outside, everything shifted. There he stood, my father had bowed, hands trembling as he whispered to someone in a dark coat. I could barely make out their features, but felt the weight of their gaze. My heart pounded. Why was he meeting someone like that? A chill crawled up my spine, every instinct screaming at me to turn and run. But instead, I stayed. I watched. A flicker of recognition ignited within me when I realized it was a tone I had heard before, quiet, secretive. The kind of conversation that shimmers with mystery, and yet, beneath, there was an undercurrent of desperation. Just then, a sudden shout cut through the silence. "You're the man they're talking about." It was a voice full of rage, breaking through the tension like glass shattering. My pulse quickened. People gathered, expressions twisted in disbelief and horror. I was swept along, caught in a tide of fear as a dozen eyes turned to my father. Could it be true? Was he really the man behind everything they whispered about? My chest tightened, each heartbeat echoing in my ears. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, the moment evaporated. My father looked up. His eyes met mine, filled with fear and no longer the strong protector I had always known. It was a simple glance, but it shattered my heart. What did it mean? I felt the world tilt beneath me, a dark abyss opening up. The crowd murmured, gasping, turning to one another with questions and accusations. I felt so small. A lump formed in my throat. How could I face him? But more terrifying was the thought of what would happen if I didn't. That moment left me hovering over a chasm of secrets deeper than I could ever imagine. The air shifted again, and time froze. "What did you do?" I whispered, voice shaky. I held my breath, waiting for an answer that felt like it would change everything. Were there pieces of him I didn't know? And in that instant of agonizing uncertainty, with my world crashing down around me, I realized the truth would haunt me forever. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The afternoon light faded into a dull gray, wrapping the world in a shroud of uncertainty. I stood there, paralyzed, watching as the crowd's collective anger turned like a swirling storm against my father. "You won't get away with this," someone shouted, their voice sharp as a knife. Each accusation felt like a stab through my heart, and I was left gasping in a world where trust had turned brittle. My father's silence was deafening, a palpable thing hanging in the air, laden with unspoken truths. I wanted to run to him, to believe in the man who had tucked me in on chilly nights, but this man seemed distant, a stranger in his own skin. I half expected him to explain, to unearth a secret that would make everything clear, but he only stared at the ground, shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world had pressed down too hard. Jake emerged from behind me, clutching a torn piece of paper, innocent and confused. His eyes darted from my father to the murmuring crowd, searching for answers I didn't have. "What's happening, Sarah?" he asked, his voice trembling. I knelt beside him, heartbreaking at his innocence. I wanted to soothe him, to protect him from this unraveling reality, but the truth nipped at my heels like a hungry wolf. Just stay close, okay? I forced a smile, though it felt like a mask that could crack at any moment. The act of caring for Jake, despite the storm around us, brought a flicker of warmth against the cold. I wrapped my arms around him tightly, grounding myself in the love we shared. No matter what happened, I had to shield him from the torrent of chaos. Don't you dare run, you coward. The crowd's insistence cut through my resolve, and I caught glimpses of faces contorted with rage. They knew something I couldn't grasp. Whispers of betrayal lingered in the air, wrapping around my throat until I could barely breathe. What had my father done that had conjured this fury, this venomous scrutiny? A flicker of movement caught my eye, a short figure pushing through the throngs of people. The old woman from our building, Mrs. Abernathy, stepped forward, her face a map of wrinkles, but filled with an unexpected kindness. "Now listen here," she called out, her voice surprisingly steady amidst the chaos. "He's not some monster. We all know him. This isn't right. It's stay out of this, Maureen," shouted one of the onlookers, sending shivers down my spine. But instead of retreating, she held her ground, her eyes searching for those of my father. I felt a pang of hope resonate within me. Maybe someone still believed in him. My heart raced again as another figure approached from the back of the crowd. Mikey, my father's old partner. He looked wild-eyed, as if he had just returned from an argument with the sky, yet I could see the flicker of loyalty in his gaze as he pushed his way through the sea of bodies. "Mason, don't," he started. But the sound met with another howl of accusations that drowned him out. My father finally looked up, his gaze catching Mickey's momentarily, and in that instant, something passed between them, a silent plea for understanding. "Why didn't you tell me?" I mouthed, daring to step forward. My mind swirled as I took in the scene, the old woman fighting back against the tide of fury, my father standing frozen in anguish, and Mikey desperately trying to bridge the gap. In my heart, I felt a spark of clarity mixed with fear. I didn't want to hear whatever could come next, yet I craved understanding. I had to know if this was a destinies woven together in chaos, or merely the tattered ends of lies unraveling before my eyes. "Sarah." Jake's voice broke through my trance as he tugged at my arm. Panic washed over me as I realized that he had wandered closer to the crowd, his curiosity pulling him toward the flames of uncertainty. No. I shouted, lunging forward, but the movement startled him, sending Jake stumbling back. He fell, scraping his knees against the rough pavement. I rushed to him, heart clenching at the sight of his pained expression. The world had turned into chaos, and my protecting embrace, my love, was no longer enough. As I wrapped my arms around him, cradling his fragile spirit, a single tear fell, mingling with the dirt of the ground beneath us. I felt the thrum of my heartbeat, a cry lost among the accusations and confusion. Just as I steadied myself, the silence sliced through my thoughts once more, shattered by the voice of a stranger emerging from the back of the throng. "I know what your father did." Time froze again. My breath caught in my throat. Whispers were spiraling, rumors were taking flight, and in that moment, the unthinkable seeped into the air surrounding us, the potential unveiling of a truth so tangled that I could hardly imagine it. As all eyes turned to this new figure, I could feel the weight of the world as it shifted, holding its breath along with me, teetering on the precipice of a revelation that threatened to swallow us all whole. The crowd's tension hung thick as molasses, each face reflecting a kaleidoscope of fear, anger, and a desperate thirst for answers. I could hardly process the weight of that looming revelation, but the moment the stranger spoke, a crack formed in the illusion I had of my father. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper, filled with a fragile wire of accusation and longing. "I am Oliver," he replied, stepping out of the darkness and into the fading light. "And am here to tell you exactly why your father is being hunted." His eyes scanned the crowd, both wary and emboldened. "I knew him back when he thought he could escape all of this. Why should we believe you?" A voice screeched from the crowd, louder than the rest, a woman who had shamed my father before. The demand cascaded through the throng, fueling their collective outrage, because I saw everything. Oliver's voice cracked like thunder, shaking the gathered masses into hesitant silence. I was there when it started. When he traded his loyalty for ambition. You all think you know him, but he's drowning in a past that's about to drown all of us. My father's expression turned from shock to something unreadable, flickering between shame and defiance. I turned to look at him, desperate for any sign of acknowledgement, an explanation, a glimmer of the man I thought I knew. A lump formed in my throat as the reality of betrayal cast a shadow over my heart, but I pushed past it. Dad, is this true? I asked, my voice breaking as the question fell into an abyss between us. There was a silencia deep, oppressive silence that stretched further than I could have foreseen. Tears pooled in my eyes. Jake, still quaking from the chaos, quietly pressed into my side. Please let him speak, I murmured, willing my father to respond. My heart ached with every second of his hesitation, each moment that he stood there, stone-faced and silent. But Oliver pressed on, his voice gaining momentum. He owes it to you, to everyone, to come clean. The man you love, Sarah, he leveled his gaze with mine, the man you need to shield from all fishes, the architect of his own ruin. A ripple of shock passed through the crowd, whispers overlapping and intensifying like crashing waves. My heart raced, confusion mingling with a dark fascination. I was enveloped by a sense of powerlessness as the truth threatened to emerge. What did Oliver mean by architect of his own ruin? Did he take a deal with the devil that would haunt us all? Sarah, listen to me, my father finally spoke. His voice was thick with regret. He stepped forward, but the crowd pressed back, simmering with pent-up rage. I could feel the urge to protect him blend seamlessly with the fear of the monster he might have become. Whatever decisions I made, they were to protect you and Jake. He sounded desperate, the plea echoing in the depth of my heart. I wanted so bad to believe him, to latch onto that fragile thread of reassurance. What's worth sacrificing our trust for, Dad? I yelled, emotion fracturing my words as they reverberated into the silence that followed. Before he could respond, Jake fell to the cracked pavement, clutching a piece of paper. I found this, he cried, eyes wild and bright with discovery. In a moment that felt both heroic and tragic, he handed it to me, his little hands trembling. The paper was slightly crumpled and stained at the edges with something dark. I couldn't tell if it was dirt or something more sinister. A murmur rippled through the crowd again as I unfolded it, feeling my breath hitch with every creased moment. There, in shaky handwriting, was a list of names I recognized, but next to them were details I couldn't comprehend. This doesn't make sense, I whispered, trying to connect the dots through my growing dread. Oliver took a step closer, his expression earnest. Those are the people he betrayed, Sarah. Each of them tied to something bigger than you can imagine. His voice dropped, hoarse with urgency. Your father couldn't run away from it. You can't run away from it.as I stood there, absorbing the weight of his words, a single thought pierced through my chaotic emotions. If this was true, if my father was at the center of something so malevolent, then what did that mean for the life we built? The upheaval clawed at my mind, bringing forth questions that threatened to drown me all the while Jake clinging to me, his innocence unwittingly tethered to the monstrous truth. Run! Someone yelled, cutting through the rising noise. A commotion surged at the back of the crowd, and panic ensued as people shifted, crowding towards the perceived safety outside this tempest of revelations. But I didn't want to run, I wanted answers. I needed my father to make sense of this chaos, needed him to unveil the truth behind the horror so I could grasp what lay ahead. With one final push, I turned back to him. Please, Dad, don't let them take you. I need you to fight for us. In that fractal moment before the true nature of the storm unraveled, I saw flickers of something in his eyes, a blend of fear, resignation, and perhaps a flicker of regret. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, the ground beneath us trembled, echoing the rumble of approaching footsteps. Each pulse of sound intertwined with our hearts, and I felt the walls around us begin to close in. Suddenly, a shadowy figure appeared at the edge of our reality, a tall silhouette that cast an ominous veil over the heart of the gathering. Time froze, and in that thick stillness, I realized this journey had only begun, and the truth I had fought so fiercely for was about to be snatched away. along with everything I held dear. The footsteps thundered in my chest, a war drum announcing the arrival of something monstrous. The crowd, once a sea of anguished uncertainty, began to scatter like leaves caught in a tempest. I felt Jake's grip tighten around my waist. His trembling warmth offered me the only semblance of stability amidst the chaos. "Stay close," I whispered fiercely to him, though inside, I was struggling to tether my own fear. My eyes were locked on my father, who remained frozen, caught between his past and this oncoming wave of destruction. I could see his lips moving, forming words I could not hear over the rising din of panic. It was as if time had fractured, stretching every moment into a painful eternity. "Oliver, we need to go," I shouted, trying to pierce through the sound with urgency, but he only shook his head, eyes wide with an intensity that bordered on desperation. "Not without the truth, Sarah. Not without understanding what's coming." He stepped closer, as the shadow at the edge of reality took a discernible shoppy figure cloaked in darkness, radiating a palpable menace. That voice, which rose above the commotion, was as smooth as silk but serrated as broken glass. "Ah, how touching." A family reunion amidst the ashes of betrayal. The figure stepped into the light, revealing sharp features twisted into a knowing smirk. "I believe we have some unfinished business, don't we, Thomas? Who are you?" I shouted, my heart racing as recognition flooded over me like ice. I had seen him in photographs, always standing beside my father, a serpent cloaked in charm. "Why are you here?" "My name is Alex Carter," he replied, his tone laced with mockery. "And I've come to collect what your father owes." He made a choice long ago, a choice that has led us all to this moment. My father's expression twisted in a blend of regret and defiance. "I won't allow you to do this," he growled, but his words seemed like a whisper lost in the torrent of chaos. "Allow me?" Alex chuckled darkly. "You seem to misunderstand the enormity of your situation. Allowing isn't the issue here. You're in no position to fight, Thomas. The time for your reckoning has arrived." The crowd began to dissipate, leaving me, Oliver, my father, and that luminous shadow of dread, as if everything around us was being swallowed by some unseen force. My heart pounded furiously. I felt the ground vibrating beneath me, echoing the tumult of emotions clawing for release. "Stop this!" I cried, but my voice was drowned in the surge of adrenaline and fear that twisted like a knotted vine inside me. "You don't have to do this. We can fix whatever it is." Alex stepped closer, his gaze piercing through the fear clouding my mind. "Your father's past is a cage he built to contain the monsters he created. And now it's broken. All his sins are laid bare before you, and I've come to show you the truth of what you're afraid to face." I glanced at my father, his eyes holding mine for the briefest of moments. In them, I could see the 100 unspoken fears and regrets woven into our shared Historia tapestry stained with loss and deception. "Sarah," he finally said, his voice hoarse with a weight I could no longer ignore. "You need to get out of here, now." "I can handle this. I am not going anywhere without you," I retorted, voice trembling with fierce determination. I couldn't run from him, from the man he once was, nor from the monstrous shadows of his choices. "Foolish girl. You think you can protect him?" Alex's laughter echoed, cruel and mocking, as he reveled in our struggle. "The only thing you're protecting is your naivete." Then, as if summoned by the very fabric of despair that swirled around us, the ground trembled again, and I saw it. A dark figure emerged from the Shadowsa man with a face shrouded in tattoos and scars, a phantom etched from nightmares and promises long broken. "Let's see how far love goes when the truth is revealed," this new figure growled, stepping forward with a malice that chilled my bones. "Please," I pleaded, desperation seeping through my voice like a wound. "Don't let this happen. You don't understand what this means for my family." "Enough," my father roared, stepping in front of me like a shield. "I will not let you drag my children into this." But I could see in his eyes the cracks threatening to split everything apart, the loyalties tested and the choices that haunted him. I was frozen at that brink, the abyss of fear and anger preparing to swallow me whole. "Sarah, you must trust me," he began, but the words shredded in the AIR.my heart raced as I felt the fabric of time shifting. I could see it playing out like a lost dream, this moment hanging in the balance, something so fragile and so painful. Then, with a shattering intensity, the shadowy figure cracked the silence. I know you, Thomas. I know everything you've tried to erase. They won't forgive you, and neither will you. And then, like whispered secrets from the grave, the truth began to seep through the cracks of the human soul standing at war before meth grief, the despair, and the chaos that was to come. The very foundation I had lived upon now threatened to crumble away. With each tick of the heart, I felt a dark revelation that sunk in like a blade, an unspoken legacy that had chained us all, and, before I could comprehend, a deafening silence fell, pulling me into its depths, leaving only the weight of impending doom shackled to my chest as the world spun violently into darkness. The darkness lingered, almost suffocating in its intensity. I blinked, desperately trying to push past the enveloping shadows that threatened to swallow me whole. Time seemed to twist into an endless spiral as the figure of my father stood stark against the chaos, a solitary beacon in the storm of reckoning. The truth hung in the air like a guillotine, waiting for the inevitable moment to strike. Don't you understand? Alex hissed, a predatory gleam in his eyes as he took a step closer. Your father is not the man you thought he was. The past is clawing at us, and you, Sarah, are simply a pawn in this game. Your father has woven a web of deceit that now ensnares everyone he loves. My heart raced as those words pierced through me. I wanted to deny them, to cling to the memories I had built around my father, the warmth of his embrace and the laughter we had shared. But with each passing second, the image of my family began to shatter, fracturing under the weight of revelations I couldn't comprehend. I looked at Jake, fear reflected in his eyes, but there was also a flicker of determination, a spark of hope in the growing darkness. Let's not forget our bond, Sarah, Jake said quietly, his fingers intertwining with mine. A lifeline in this unraveling nightmare. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. But the stranglehold of terror tightened around me as I returned my gaze to my father. His eyes, usually so comforting, were now clouded by storms of regret, their depths hinting at secrets that had festered like wounds left untreated. You need to understand, I tried to protect you, he gasped, his voice breaking as he met my eyes. I was trying to shield you from the truth. Protect me? I cried out, my voice trembling. By keeping me in the dark? You can't just shield me from a past you've created. I need to know what you did. We all do enough. Alex's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. You want truth? Let's expose it all. He turned to the scarred figure beside him, lips curling into a devilish grin. Show her. The man's gaze was unnervingly calm as he stepped forward, his presence sending ripples of dread through my body. You'll understand soon enough, girl. Your father's choices are etched all over this town. All of you're carrying the weight of his sins. I felt the ground beneath me tremble again, a physical manifestation of the turmoil inside me. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs, each beat echoing the chaos swirling within my mind. I was trapped between the boy I loved, the father I idolized, and a truth that threatened to destroy everything I held dear. Dad, please, I whispered, desperation clawing at my throat. Tell me the truth before it's too late. Whatever it is, let me hear it. As the words left my mouth, I felt a flicker of something within him, a deep, conflicting struggle between the desire to protect and the need to confess. But before he could respond, Alex interrupted, his voice dripping with malice. Oh, how sweet. A family moment before destruction. But your father is no more than a coward who let others pay for his mistakes. Do you ever stop talking? My father shot back, his voice gaining strength. We're done with your theatrics, Alex. You have no hold over me anymore. With those words, the tension shifted, crackling in the air as though charged with electricity. Just as the tide seemed to turn, the scarred figure laughed darkly, a sound that sent shivers racing through my spine. But it's not just me, is it? The consequences are gathered like storm clouds, and they won't dissipate until the truth shines like lightning. With that, darkness swirled around us and the air thickened with foreboding. The world felt disjointed, like a broken film reel, a flash of scenes I couldn't piece together, but felt deep within my bones. I was on the edge, a precipice of unfathomable truths. Suddenly, Jake pulled me closer, his breath warm against my ear as he murmured, "I won't let anything happen to you. Promise me you'll stay with me, no matter what we face." His words were a lifeline, grounding me even as chaos erupted around us. I nodded, the silence between us filled with unspoken promises and fears. We were afloat in a sea of turmoil, and though the darkness surrounded us, his warmth was an ember against the cold. But before we could gather our thoughts, the scarred man stepped even closer, the edges of darkness swirling in his presence. In his hand, he clutched a tattered photograph, its surface dulled by age, but the faces in it were startlingly clear. "Care to see what your father really owes?" He sneered, thrusting the photo toward me. As I took it, the world around me faded away, and I was transported into the haunting gaze of my younger self, alongside a figure that sent ice coursing through my veins. It was a younger version of my father, standing next to a woman I had never seen, her eyes filled with a haunting sorrow. "A woman unforgotten and a choice unmade," the man announced, voice dripping with venom. "Your mother." My breath caught in my throat, and my heart plummeted. Everything I thought I knew began to disintegrate, and the weight of my past grew heavier as if suddenly, the very ground beneath me was crumbling. Another piece of the unraveling truth was laid bare, and I was left standing on the brink, teetering over an abyss of revelations that, if uncovered, would change everything. The photograph trembled in my hands, the image blurring under a veil of unshed tears. I had never seen this woman before, yet there was an unshakable familiarity in her sorrowful gaze. It felt as if she had carved a hollow space in my heart, one that echoed with grief I had yet to understand. The world around me dimmed, and I was all at once drawn into a whirlwind of memories that were not my own. "Sarah," Jake's voice broke through my trance, steady and firm. "Are you okay?" I blinked, trying to bring my focus back to him. The look on his face wasn't one of irritation, but rather of deep concern, his eyes wide with a mix of panic and empathy. With a shaky breath, I managed to nod. I didn't know. I didn't know about her." Alex leaned against the wall, arms crossed with a self-satisfied smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "Ignorance can be a comforting blanket until it suffocates you. Isn't that right?" He stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with perverse joy. "Yet, here you stand, caught in the web your father spun, a web that led to loss and despair." "Shut up, Alex." Jake snapped, his protective instinct flaring. "You don't get to speak about her or what you think you know." A moment of tension hung in the air, a fragile thread woven between the three of us. My heart drummed in my chest as Alex's words danced mockingly in my mind. I felt the weight of the photograph becoming as heavy as the unraveling truth I was desperate to understand. "Why didn't you tell me, Dad?" I turned to my father, seeking answers through the storm of emotions swirling within me, his face contorted in pain, a paternal agony painted with regret. "I thought I could keep you safe?" I interrupted, my voice rising as the anger bubbled to the surface. "Safe from what? From the truth? Because now it feels like I've been living in a lie, and am only just starting to grasp the edges of it." "It was never my intention to hurt you," he pleaded, stepping closer, his own turmoil revealing cracks in his bravado. "I loved your mother deeply, and losing her it shattered me. I didn't want you to suffer that loss. I thought you could have a better life without her memory haunting you." "I thought you could erase her?" I cried out, the incomprehensible heaviness around us pressing me deeper into despair. Yet, somewhere in the chaos, I felt a flicker, a simple thought. He was trying to protect me, but how could you protect someone from the truth? The realization made my chest ache with confusion and disappointment. Just as I began to collect the pieces of my shattered reality, Jake's hand squeezed mine tighter, grounding me again. "Sarah, we can figure this out." Together, Alex scoffed, his presence felt all-consuming. "Together? How sweet. You think you can solve the labyrinth of lies your father has built?" I shook my head, trying to blast away the doubts. "This is about more than just the past. It's about healing, and if there's any hope left." My voice faltered, and I cast a desperate glance at my father. "I can't do this. Not alone." Just then, the scarred figure chuckled darkly, grabbing my attention. "You think closure is found in facing the past? You're merely skimming the surface. The depths are where the true revelations lie, and you, young lady, are going to plunge into it whether you like it or not. I stared at him, fear creeping back into my veins. What do you mean? Without warning, he motioned behind me, and I turned to see a thick, swirling mist coalescing into an unearthly form. Shadows danced within the fog, taking on shapes I didn't recognize, but felt inherently connected to. The air turned electric, crackling with the energy of raw emotion, sorrow, and rage mingling together in a volatile mix. You will face more than the choices of your father, the scarred figure said, his voice echoing as if originating from the void itself. You'll face the consequences that this town carries, the secrets we bury to keep it afloat. I took a hesitant step back, turning once more toward my father, the desperation to find the truth rattling my core. You knew about this. You had to have known, Sarah, he began, but the shadows swirled closer, threatening to encircle us all. Tell me the truth or I will leave. I challenged, my pulse racing with fear and resolve, while the realization of losing everything pushed me to the brink. As my heart beat wildly, a flicker of hope arrived against the gathering gloom. Please don't go, Jake whispered fiercely, his grip unyielding. If you leave, we will never know what really happened. Don't let the shadows win. Just then, the mist rippled in response, and a series of images unfolded before me, glimpses of moments from my father's past intertwined with fragments of my own life, casting shadows longer than I'd ever imagined. And at the center, the mysterious woman from the photograph, her haunting gaze locking with mine as she seemed to reach through time, bridging the past with our present. Sarah, my father's voice trembled with urgency. It's all a part of the story. We must face it together or risk losing everything to the darkness. But as those words hung heavy in the air, the brightness of sudden understanding flickered in my mind, igniting a chilling realization. What if my father's past wasn't the only truth buried here? What if the looming shadows were also revealing things about me? About Jake. The ground beneath us shifted once more, a chaotic reminder that I was teetering at the very edge of despair, trapped in a spiral from which I might never return. As the chilling whispers began to rise and the shadows surged forward, I felt the tendrils of dread wrap around me once more. What truth lay waiting just beyond reach? What choices could define us all as the darkness threatened to pull us under? And that haunting gaze from the photograph echoed in my thoughts, leaving me breathless with its implications. The fight for answers had just begun, and I was standing at the precipice, an unwitting participant in a much larger game than I could have ever imagined. The mist coiled and reeked of deep regret, mingling with the fear that coursed through me. I stood at the edge of a precipice, the shadows threatening to swallow me whole. What else don't I know? I whispered, dread pooling in my stomach as the atmosphere thickened. The swirling sorrow seemed to press against my skin, eager to reveal what had been so carefully concealed. Sarah, my father began, his voice breaking like glass. There's so much more at stake than you can imagine. Stop, I interrupted, raising my hand, closing my eyes to drown out the cacophony of emotions clawing for release. Just let me breathe. A sudden calm washed over the chaos as I centered myself. I was shaking, but alongside the chill of fear, a flicker of raw determination ignited within me. I scrambled back, pushing Jake behind me instinctively, inhaling deeply to steady my racing heart. What are you afraid will happen if you tell me? If you finally face it all? Of losing you, my father replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Of losing the only piece of her I have left. The pain laced through his words struck me, complex and aching, yet it shadowed a deeper truth. In that moment, the scarred figure watched with an unsettling smile, leaning closer as if my resolve amused him. Isn't it precious? He mocked. No bond formed in ignorance can withstand the storms of the past. You're reaching for answers, yet your fingers are drifting further away. Fury rose within me, hot and wild. Take responsibility for your actions. I shouted, feeling the burn of adrenaline. You're part of this too, aren't you? I turned to face the mist again. Shadows wove around us like a cloak. Exposing the truth is better than shrouding it in lies. For a moment, silence fell heavily, and I prayed the darkness would retreat. moments of strength mingling with my trepidation. The figure merely chuckled, and with a flick of his wrist, the shadows enveloped him wholly, leaving behind swirling soft colorsa juxtaposition against the oppressive gloom. Then, the flickering light twisted, coiling toward the photograph in my trembling hand. The woman within stared back, and somehow, I felt her yearning and pain as if they were my own. "There's a story in here, one that desperately needs to be told," I murmured. "Sarah, please," Jake implored, breaking the silence that followed. He reached for my hand, his touch grounding me amidst the chaos. "If you dive deeper, will you come back?" "I need to know," I answered, a determination blossoming in my chest. "I need to face what's hidden, the truth behind this town and my family's legacy." As I felt Jake's warmth beside me, the shadows twisted in response, surging forward and revealing a new scene before us, pieces of lives, moments of laughter intertwined with sorrow. There unfolded a tapestry of intertwined destinies, unseen connections pulsing through the air, hinting at a tragic fate that had been spun long before my time. The laughter echoed jarringly against the dark children playing, a loving embrace, and then everything fractured, screaming memories of betrayal and loss, and I saw her, the woman from the photograph, standing at the precipice of despair. She looked torn between two worlds, the weight of choices carving lines of anguish on her face. "You can't erase it," and yet I felt the words escape my lips. "My father erased the truth." The shadows shifted slightly, still hovering, waiting for the tension to snap. "Your father wasn't merely a victim. He was a player, a creator of the very tragic song that binds you. His choices shaped the chaos, just as they might shape your very own." The scarred figure's voice echoed, dragging forth my hidden doubts and weaving them into fabric I had yet to comprehend. A sudden, chilling realization kneeled before me, rising like a specter. "Is that why you've been avoiding this?" I turned my eyes back to my father, whose face grew pale. "Is it because the truth lies buried with the guilt of choices you've made?" "Enough," he snapped, his voice cracking under the weight of emotions wrestling within him. I had hit too close to a raw nerve. The air vibrated. With Tenziona, battle of silence, fueling an explosive confrontation. A crack of thunder rumbled overhead. The clouds above darkened, reflecting the depths of our turmoil. I could almost hear the town itself groan beneath layers of forgotten pain and buried secrets. But amidst the gathering tempest, hope remained a fragile thread. Jake tightened his grip on my hand, an anchor amidst the storm. "Whatever it is, you don't have to face it alone. But we need to explore this together," I affirmed, taking a bold step forward, the flickers of light illuminating my path ahead, and for a brief moment, I felt the cracks in the sky reflect a larger promise, the possibility of redemption. Just as I braced myself to plunge deeper into the swirling depths of truth, a sudden glow erupted from the photograph, illuminating our faces with unsettling clarity. The mist glimmered, expanding with an irresistible force. My breath caught as I glimpsed something profound within the swirling depths. A figure emerged from the shadows of the photograph, a flicker of recognition racing through my veins. "No, it can't be!" The shocking realization ripped through me, leaving me gasping as everything around me began to spiral out of control. Someone I never expected was intricately woven into this tapestry, a truth that would alter everything I thought I knew. And with it, the weight of reckoning pressed down on me as the revelation began to unfold, an unraveling that would shatter my reality, leaving me gasping for air in the suffocating embrace of the unknown. The shadows ebbed and flowed like a restless tide, receding only to surge back in an effort to drown out the fragile light that clung to us. My heart raced, thrumming loudly in my ears as I tried to process the revelation that had just shattered my understanding of everything. The figure from the photograph stepped closer, rippling in and out of focus, yet its presence charged the air with an intensity of emotions I could hardly bear. "Who are you?" I rasped, fear clawing at the edges of my voice. The truth had morphed into a living entity, pressing deeper inside of me, an insistent whisper echoing through the corners of my mind. And then, like a curtain being drawn back, I heard a voice familiar yet foreign. "Sarah, it's been so long." The figure spoke as if the very air around us had conspired to bring it forth, weaving the threads of the past with the present in a single, breath-stealing moment. Each word reverberated through the fog, igniting a spark of recognition and dread within me. "It couldn't be no, it can't be you," I stammered, blinking away disbelief. "Mom? Your mother," my father breathed, anguish etched across his face. The shadow soon drifted closer, illuminating shards of emotion painted across its features, and I felt the fragile barrier keeping the truth at bay begin to crack under the weight of longing and regret. The mist thickened, becoming an almost palpable presence as it swirled around us. I faltered, struck by a surge of conflicting emotion, desperately grasping onto Jake for stability. He looked at me, his own face a reflection of bewilderment and fear, yet his grip remained resolute, his solidarity becoming a lifeline in the tempest. "Sarah, listen," the figure continued, an echo of warmth threading through an otherwise stark void. "I made choices, mistakes that reverberate through time and space, but am still here, always have been." There was vulnerability in her voice, an ocean of sorrow that beckoned to me from beyond the veil. "What do you want?" I implored, part of me yearning for the connection that had been cruelly snatched away, while another part screamed to distance myself from the grief-laden presence. "What do you want from me?" "To understand," she replied gently. "And to forgive." Her words hung in the air like a fragile quiver, resonating against the tumult of my heart. Forgiveness could be the key that unlocks the door you stand before, a door that leads to acceptance, healing, and, ultimately, peace. "I have no idea how to forgive you." The harshness of my words sliced through the thickening mist, and I felt the sharp sting of tears threatening to spill. "You abandoned me. You left me to pick up the pieces when you could have stayed, could have fought." The shadows danced around us, shifting, twisting with a whisper of doubt that seeped into my bones. "You don't understand," the figure implored, her voice trembling with a palpable anguish. "It wasn't that simple. I was entangled in a web of choices that seemed inevitable, but it tore me apart from the inside out. Your father, he was a part of that web." "Stop," I cried, but the words came out as a desperate plea. It felt as though my heart was being pulled in opposite directions, caught between the longing for a mother and the agony of her betrayal. "It's time to break the cycle, Sarah," she continued, unyielding. "You have the power to change the narrative. But you'll need to confront what lies before you, the truth buried beneath layers of pain and lies." Just then, a sharp rumble of thunder reverberated through the gathering storm above us, amplifying the weight of the moment. The fabric of our reality twisted as if threatening to unravel with each beating heartbeat. "Sarah," Jake's voice broke through my turmoil, a beacon of calm amidst the looming chaos. "You don't have to stay trapped in past pain. Not anymore. Look at what's in front of you. This is a pivotal moment." "Jake, it's all spiraling out of my control," I cried, my voice rising over the wind. "What do I even do? I'm terrified. This isn't just about me. It's about all of us." And then, just as I felt I might drown in the rising tide of emotion, something miraculous happened. The figures, my father, my mother, began to fade together, entwining like smoke, threads of their past creating a tapestry of longing and loss, yet tinged with the flicker of hope. The shimmering haze gave birth to familiar images. Memories intertwined with fierce, a warm embrace from childhood, laughter filling the air, one delicate moment of lightness woven amongst the darkness. "Those moments exist just beyond the shadows," my mother urged, her voice becoming a plea. "You have the power to carry the light, Sarah, even amid despair. Embrace it." But before I could respond, the shadow released a fierce gust of wind, sending a jolt of sensation bursting through me. I stumbled back, shockwaves vibrating within, and the figures darted, slipping away like dreams at dawn. Panic jolted through me as reality began its cruel tug-of-war once more. The mist twisted and contorted into a relentless storm, threatening to unravel all remnants of hope. As the shadows surged ferociously, a horrifying thought clawed at my mind, repeating like a mantra, I couldn't let the truth consume me. I had to strive for light, yet how could I when the darkness loomed so heavily? Just as the maelstrom reached its zenith, a sudden, deafening silence fell. I barely had time to gasp when a figure emerged, a silhouette bathed in the flickering glimmer of the photograph's light, stepping forward like a herald of fate. And in a heartbeat, the astonishing truth struck me with the force of thunder. This was not just my mother's voice I had heard. It was the reflection of all the choices made by both my parents converging on the precipice of my existence. Breathless and shaken, I met the eyes of the new figure, a familiar gaze that echoed the heart of my turmoil. "You," I whispered, realization dawning with unrelenting force. The revelation shifted the very ground beneath my feet, uprooting everything I thought I knew about love, loss, and my entire history in the blink of an eye. "Are you ready to face what you've always feared?" the figure asked, stepping from the haze. The foundations of my shattered world quaked around me, every emotion swirling around like a tempest. And as a tempest raged within, I understood one undeniable truth in that very moment: this was simply the beginning, and what awaited, even more profound, still hovered just beyond reach. The shadows flickered like restless fireflies, breathing life into the chaos I felt swirling within. My heart nearly stopped as I looked into the figure's face, a face I had seen only in fragments of forgotten memories and faded photographs. The familiarity clawed at my chest, torn between recognition and a deeper sense of betrayal that almost immobilized me. "Dad?" I whispered, uncertainty coating the word like a shroud. My pulse echoed in the silence that followed, each beat mirroring the mounting terror that threatened to engulf me once more. "Yes, Sarah," he replied, his voice a mix of warmth and weariness, interwoven with something else, something darker. "It's time for you to know the truth, but it comes with consequences." I fought the urge to retreat, my instinct screaming for me to run from this haunting familiarity that felt like a weight poised to suffocate me. "What truth?" "You abandoned us. Both of you." My voice cracked, an exposed nerve begging for understanding amidst the tempest of my past. Did I ever really leave? His question hung in the air, insistent and challenging. "You must understand, Sarah. Every decision I made was to protect you, even if it meant stepping back for a while. But shadowy decisions come with echoes, and I'm here to unravel the threads that connect us." "Unravel?" I scoffed, feeling a mixture of anger and desperation coursing through my veins. "You wove a web of lies that kept me bound and confused." "No more riddles, Dad. Just tell me what you did." "It's not that simple," he said, stepping closer, shadows giving way to the warmth of his presence. "Every choice, every sacrifice has its roots. I'm not the villain you think I am. You need to understand the forces that led me to do what I did. I don't care about your justification." I shouted, a surge of frustration erupting like a volcano. "You hurt me. You hurt Mom. If this is about healing, then show me the wounds instead of dancing around them." With a gentle sigh, he shifted, the air around him pulsating with an ethereal glow. "Healing requires confronting the truths we fear most. The pain I tried to shield you from has always lingered in the shadows, and now it has come to claim what it believes is its right, your peace." Suddenly, the ground quaked under my feet, the edges of the fog curling darkly as if awakening from a deep slumber. Memories rushed back, moments of love and suffering, juxtaposed in a way that left me gasping. I had spent my life wrestling with the absence of those I loved, but now they were right in front of me, exposing their truths like raw wounds that would not heal. "Face the truth, Sarah. Only then can you begin to understand the depths of love and sacrifice." His eyes pleaded with me, every bit as familiar as the ache in my heart. Just then, a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye drew my attention. Emerging from the darkness was a figure I had longed for, a glimmer of hope filtered through despair. It was Jake. "Sarah, get away from him." His voice was taut with urgency, arms outstretched as if trying to shield me from the inevitable collision of our realities. "Jake," I said, confusion sprawled across my face like a jagged puzzle. "This is my father." "Hey, know who he is," Jake interrupted, tension emanating from him. "But he's not the only dark shadow looming over you, Sarah. You have to question whether his truths will truly set you free or bind you tighter in chains of regret." His words struck me like lightning, igniting the dim embers of fear I had been desperately trying to suppress. I felt the weight of my mother's absence and the pain of my father's choices pressing down on me, coiling as if wanting to control my fate. Turning back to my father, I demanded, "What did you do?" With a lingering pause that weighed heavily on the air, he spoke. It's not just about the choices I made, but the ones you'll have to make going forward, Sarah. The truth I hid, I wasn't the only one given power in those decisions. Your mother was too, and her past choices intertwined with mine. A wave of doubt flooded through me, a gut-wrenching mix of betrayal and confusion. What? Do you mean? My mother had secrets, but this? I can't believe she would choose the darkness over me. She didn't choose it, Sarah. She was caught in a storm too, he confessed, anguish creasing his brow. A storm of love, loss, and the invisible thread that bound us all. You're standing at the crossroads of our decisions. You'll need to decide how to move forward with the knowledge of where we've been. The ground trembled again, and a whisper of wind echoed among us. Instinctively, I took a step back, the air thickening as if in response to my mounting panic. I'm not ready, I don't know how to forgive, or what to believe, I stammered, a monsoon of fear and uncertainty crashing over my consciousness. Jake reached for my hand, grounding me with the warmth of human connection. You don't have to face this alone, Sarah. The storm may rage, but you have the choice to find your path amongst the chaos. Trust yourself. My eyes bobbed between them, two figures anchored in my past, yet representing futures I couldn't yet fathom. The weight of their expectations settled in my chest, squeezing tight. But at what cost? I found myself whispering, the echo of my fear resonating in the depths of the gathering shadows, and before either man could respond, a forceful bolt of energy surged around us, swallowing the space in an otherworldly glow. Just as clarity began to creep in, the shifting shadows unleashed a final, deafening roar, drowning out my voice and pulling me in multiple directions at once. In that moment, everything flickered: memories, futures, the lives I had yet to live. As the light began to fade, an unexpected urgency gripped me, making its way to my core. I hadn't just been confronted with my past, I was also being thrust into a future intertwined with their choices, lingering right at the edge of understanding. That I felt the shadows close in, tightening their grip as the storm raged in tandem with the hurricane of emotions. And then, just as the echoes of my father's truth resonated alongside Jake's steady presence, the world fell silent again, leaving me teetering on the brink of something monumental, a decision that could carve a new path from the chaos, or one that could seal my fate for eternity. And with one last surge of energy, everything went black. Outside the cacophony, in the eye of the storm, a profound silence enveloped me, wrapping around my chest like a vice. I stood in darkness, suspended in a liminal space that felt endless. A tempest of questions swirled thickly, saturating the air with anticipation. Then, slowly, the shadows began to lift, familiar shapes emerged around me, warm and vibrant, a kitchen bathed in sunlight, the golden laughter of children splashing against the walls. It was all woven with memories I had not known I had lost, remnants of a past forever carved into my heart. My mother's laughter echoed, my father's smiles were aglow with fleeting light. Each moment brought comfort laced with a piercing ache, awakening a yearning that seared through my despair. Why are you here? My voice shattered the vivid images, trembling with vulnerability. What do you want me to choose? The figures, my parents, glanced at one another, unspoken communications swirling around them like fog. Then my mother stepped forward, her essence radiant yet melancholic. Sarah, you must accept what has shattered to build anew. We made decisions to protect you with the worst of intentions. Now, the weight of our past seeks an answer in you. A sudden realization struck. The shadows I had fought so hard against were not just my father's nor my mother's burdens. They were an inheritance I had not chosen, but one I was now forced to confront. I inhaled sharply, heart racing. I can't take on their mistakes. How can I possibly forgive them? How can I forgive myself? My father stepped forward, a raw emotion coloring his face as he lost his composure. Forgiveness starts with understanding, Sarah. I couldn't bear the sight of your innocence crushed under the weight of my choices, the dark legacy that could claw at your heart. His voice cracked as if the reality of his admission bore down on him like a mountain, yet there was an unmistakable flicker of hope nestled within, an ember igniting possibilities. The void surrounding us pulsed and shuddered under the weight of my confusion. You told me that the truth would set me free, I whispered, feeling each syllable hang like a prayer in the air. But all I feel is trapped. How can I be free without the very closure I seek? You have the key inside you, Sarah, my mother urged, her eyes glistening with the warmth of tears. To let go is to acknowledge we were flawed, imperfect, and yet our love remained the foundation beneath your feet if you choose to build upon it. Her voice grew softer, yet filled with unwavering strength. Together, we must unearth the remnants of our past. Together. The word echoed with promise, sending waves of warmth racing through me. Yet there it was, a haunting void between us and a truth yet unfaced. What if I can't forgive? What if the shadow of your past holds too tight? Then unexpectedly, Jake's presence rippled through my thoughts. His reminder of choice, of standing by me through the rage and pain. Sarah, listen to your heart, not just the ache for understanding, but the call for healing. His voice resonated through the silence, sparking something deep inside me. Your strength lies in breaking the cycle, my mother murmured as if reading my inner struggle. The only way forward is to confront this legacy, even if it disorients you. That's the truth we've all avoided facing. As her words coiled around my heart, I felt the darkness shifting as if responding to a heartbeat, a flutter of reckoning. I looked once more into the eyes of my father and mother, and the shadows behind them began to dissipate, revealing a glimmer of hope beyond the agony etched on their faces. They were my imperfect guide, the map holders of tangled lives, willing to unearth the truth that frightened me. The thought coalesced, a surge of bravery igniting as understanding enveloped me like a warm embrace. I can forgive, I breathed hoarsely, with overwhelming weight. If it means breaking free from the chains of our past. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Light burst forth as the shadows trembled, releasing their grip on my heart. With every tether undone, my fears began to vaporize, replaced by something much larger, a sense of clarity in the storm. Together, in this fragile moment, I realized my parents' struggles were not mine alone to bear. I could rise above their past and choose to rewrite the story entwined in our lives. The figures of my parents slowly shifted, their forms no longer draped in shadows, but infused with light, reflecting back hope. They watched me, their faces serene as if recognizing the journey I was beginning. The world around us rooted itself back into focus, the chaotic ambivalence peeling away like layers off a forgotten dream. I will face the truth and heal, I declared, feeling the warm current of resilience wash over me anew. I will carry your stories with me, but I will also let go of the burden of your choices. I am no longer afraid. With that, I felt a final fractal crack of energy unfurl, and the shadows sighed as if at peace with my decision. They began to dissolve before my eyes until all that stood was a bridge, illuminated with possibilities, a pathway forward through my pain and into the light. As I took my first step into that brilliant expanse, I turned back to my parents. I'm ready to embrace the love and the loss, to transform the echoes of our lives into something beautiful. I found myself smiling through the tears. Because love doesn't erase the past, it offers a beacon to guide us home, even through the darkest storms. And with that thought, I felt whole. The final line, resounding against the winds of change, blossomed like a flower piercing through asphalt, reminding me that it is our ability to forgive ourselves and others that becomes the true compass guiding our way back to love.